It's time for Real Estate 101 with the Karey Brown team from Realty Executives Preferred Advisors.
Good Sunday morning to you. This is Karey Brown, broker-owner of Realty Executives Preferred Advisors, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. Today I'm here with Doug Millebrent. He is with Pillar to Post, and he is a home inspector. My team and I use him, and he's one of several that we really feel confident with whenever they go out and they do a great job. With there being 600 realtors, everybody needs a little chunk of their time. So we're all really familiar with Doug. And so what we're going to do today is go through the different type of maintenance things that you should be doing to prepare your home for winter. So Doug, I'm going to let you get started. Let's talk about heating and cooling, since that's obviously the biggest thing is heating your house right now.
That's great. Thanks again for the great comments, and appreciate that. Winter months are upon us already, and if you haven't already had your heating and cooling checked, it'd be a great idea to give a call to your local HVAC guy and have him come out and do a quick once-over on your unit so he doesn't fail you on those cold winter nights. Some of the things that you can do when you check your own furnace is take a wash rag and some 409 down there with you and wipe down the unit. I recommend that about every 2 weeks. That way, if something does happen to your heating unit, you'll see that wasn't there the last time you were there, and it gives you a real heads up so that you can save yourself some money and get a call to the HVAC guy.
Absolutely. Also, changing your filter is important too.
Changing filters is really important. They recommend every 3 months, but on some of these high-efficiency furnaces, I would recommend that you do it more often, especially if you live in the country on gravel road areas where there's a lot of dust or where you may have a lot of dust coming in your house. The furnace filters are not for us. They're for the furnace so that the furnace stays running good.
Absolutely. And I know we've seen, especially in homes, home inspections, if you've got pets that have a lot of hair,
that's true too. Those filters will suck all that pet dander and hair down in there too. So once again, if you have pets, it'd be probably a little bit better to change a little more often than 3 months.
Yeah, I say that because I have a husky, and literally every day I could sweep and clothe at least 5 chihuahuas with the hair that he sheds.
I'm sure you've got some money invested in your Swifters.
Oh yeah, he can break a shampooer in no time.
Some of the other things to look for in the winter are taking care of your downspouts and your gutters, making sure them leaves are out of there, because once the rain starts and freezes, it has nowhere else to go, and it expands and tends to go up into your shingles, which is what we call ice damming. So very good to make sure that everything's clear in your gutters all the way down to the downspout, and make sure that the water is moving away from your home.
Absolutely. And so winterizing your home, basically to make sure that you're getting all the keeping the hot air in and the cold air out, what would you do to suggest that people do that to try and keep their utility bills down? Well,
the first thing is making sure that you have adequate amount of insulation in your attic. That's the first thing, because most of your heat escapes out through the top of your house. The other things are on your windows. If you have windows that aren't double glazed or energy efficient, there are products you can buy to put a film of plastic over that window and keep that air inside your home. There are other things to do on the outside of the house, making sure that the glazing on your windows is all intact, making sure that your storm windows are shut, and also one of the more important things on the hose bibs on your house, making sure that those hoses are taken off of those faucets. Even though a lot of the faucets on the sides of homes are frost-free, that will fail if the hose is attached to that faucet. So make sure you remove the hose from the faucet.
I tell you, whenever we bought our house, we bought it, and it was a bank-owned property, and this is way prior to me becoming a real estate agent. We didn't know any better. And we were told that having a home inspection wasn't going to matter because it was a bank-owned property and it was as is, not realizing that we should have had a home inspection. So hindsight's always 20/20, and the amazing things you learn once you become in the trade, or So basically, we found a faucet that was underneath the deck, and we thought, well, that's so much more convenient to the garden. So we thought, well, I wonder why it doesn't have a nozzle, to turn it on and off. And we plugged it in, bought, the little turn thing to turn it on, and I love my technical words here. Hooked up the hose, and it shot water into our kitchen.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so it had frozen at some point.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah. So needless to say, we got to fix the ceiling in the kitchen. And
yeah, that's never fun. So it's one of my speeches I usually give first-time home buyers is the maintenance on a home is very important. Save you a lot of money to make those checks and constantly be looking for things that are going to, if they do break, they can cost a lot of money. So always be on your guard. There is no landlord to call when you own the house.
No, you are the landlord. Yeah, definitely. And one of the biggest things that I can say is always, 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 always have a home inspection. They're not perfect. Sometimes they miss things, especially if people are talking to them. It distracts them from what they're there for. But at the same time, it's the best thing you could have ever done. There were a lot of things that we wish we would have known. And we didn't. We didn't do the home inspection, and that was, and on our part, the house had been vacant for almost 2 years.
Home inspections are very important, and you don't have to be buying an older home, an as-is home. Even brand new homes have a need for home inspection.
Absolutely. I mean, we've even had sewer lines that have had bellies in them after they were put in, and that was in new construction. So,
yeah, new construction. One of the great things that home inspection will give a buyer is a great checkoff list for the construction people to take care of their little mistakes before they buy the home.
Absolutely. So let's talk about foundation and exterior. So whenever you're looking at wintertime and you've got all that snow packed around, and I know even in the summer when it was really hot, a lot of people had the year that we basically had a drought. I mean, we didn't have anywhere near enough rain. There was a lot of foundation issues after that. We
live in an area that has a lot of clay in our soil, and it tends to have a great effect on our foundations. One of the things you can do is to try to maintain an even amount of moisture in the soil around your home. And you don't want it to become saturated, and you don't want it to become completely dried out. What happens with clay is clay shrinks when it dries out, and when water hits it, it expands very rapidly, and that's what pushes in a lot of foundations. So when in the summer months, when we're in that drought time, and you look around your home, if you start seeing a gap between the dirt and your foundation, it might be a great idea to add a little water along that foundation. Don't soak it up, just enough to keep it moist. And then also in the times of the year when we get a lot of rain, making sure that rain and that water is moving away from your house. If you have any areas where it's low, around where the dirt is low around your foundation, add some soil there and get that grading, that slope away from the house. And then these corrugated pipes that you can attach to the downspout are a great idea. 4 to 6 feet out from the house will really help out quite a bit.
Let's talk about roof. So what should they be doing? I know people generally don't even think about the roof until they have a leak. What could they be doing to make sure that it's helping them throughout the winter to keep the house warm?
Well, not everybody can get up on a roof. It takes a little talent getting on and off a roof. But you can contact some of the roofers, and there are people out there that will come out and inspect your roof, and also clean the gutters at the same time. One of the things you want to look for, though, on a roof, and you can actually use a pair of binoculars to get quite a bit of it if you stand across the street and look at your house, is to look for loose shingles, the flashing around chimneys, the flashing around the edge of the roof to make sure it's pulled up, and getting things like that nailed down. And one of the big things that I'm finding a lot on a lot of homes, the grommets that go around pipes, plumbing pipes that come up through your roof, those little rubber grommets don't tend to last as long as the roof, or they get left on there if they're in good shape, and then the next roof, they fail sometime in between. And when those rubber grommets get cracks and splits and checks in them, that water runs right down the pipe and inside your walls, and that's where a lot of damage can happen before you can even see that there's a problem. So checking those once a year is a great idea, checking those grommets, making sure they're okay. And also in the soffit area and the fascia around the corners of your house. That's where a lot of rot on the wood happens, especially where the gutter makes a 45 around the corner or inside corners. That seam inside the gutter fails, and then water starts leaking out onto the wood and starts rotting that wood. So check the seam on the gutter, fix that, and then go ahead, prime and paint, and take care of the wood.
I know going into winter, a lot of people like to use the electric heaters, which I know in my office, we throw a breaker at least once a week once the winter kicks in, because we all have the little heaters at our feet. So we've determined, who could have theirs on medium and who has to have theirs on low and all that kind of stuff, so we don't flip any breakers. But for safety's sake, what would you say are the things that people need to really watch out for?
Whenever you're using space heaters in a house, especially if they are breaking tripping breakers, you need to call somebody and make sure that you're supplying the proper electricity to the appliance. Any appliances that burn natural gas or propane, those are made for outside and need to be vented outside. All too often we hear about somebody that has had a family member pass because of carbon monoxide poisoning, and it's a terrible thing. It's something that's so preventable. So keeping your car outside, don't let your car run in a closed garage, making sure that all your appliances are vented properly, including your water heater and your furnace, and making sure that the gases, the combustion gases, are getting out of the house. The biggest thing that we see in the winter is people trying to keep warm using fireplaces, and a lot of these gas log fireplaces, they don't have vents on them, or they have the vent sealed to the point where just enough is open. That's not a great idea either. They're just for the aesthetics of a fire and not meant to heat a home.
Another fire hazard that people don't often think about is their dryer vents with the lint traps. Let's talk about, how do you even clean that out?
I see it all the time when I'm doing my inspection. I'm walking around the house and I see that dryer vent, and I look up in there, and almost all the time the door is propped open because the lint is so full inside the pipe that the door won't close. And when that door doesn't close, guess who wants to come in the warmth? Those little mice. They love getting in those dryer vents, and they come up to
snakes.
there. Or snakes. Yeah. Heaven forbid the snakes. I can deal with the mice. But one of the things you can do is to take that little cap off outside, or you can take and move the dryer inside. And at your local hardware store, there's a little dryer vent cleaning tools that you can buy. Basically, it goes on the end of a drill, and it has little wire brushes on the end, or plastic brushes, and you send that little cable down and turn on your drill, and it turns as it goes down the vent pipe and cleans that out. Or you can use compressed air, or you can tie a rag on the end of a broomstick, anything to get that lint out of there, especially if you have a gas dryer. Gas dryers need to be cleaned periodically. Lint can build up in them, and a lot of house fires are caused by gas dryers that aren't cleaned on a regular basis.
Real quick, we're going to have a word from our sponsors, which is State Farm, Carpet One, Invista Credit Union, and Security First. So be sure and join us right after the break. We're going to be talking about what goes into a home inspection and why they're so important.
Southwest Topeka has a good neighbor. State Farm agent Jim Garrison, now at 29th and Urish. If your current insurance situation has you going around in circles, get off the roundabout and stop in and meet Jim and his wonderfully efficient staff. Let Jim Garrison give you a quote and make the Garrison comparison. He's confident that with State Farm's competitive rates, the right coverage, and his unmatched service, you'll want to make him your new insurance agent. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and Jim Garrison is there for you, northeast of the roundabout at 29th and Urish.
This is Stephen Parkin at Invista Credit Union. Purchasing a home is one of the most exciting and important decisions someone can make. Let me tell you why Invista is the best choice for financing your new home purchase. First, quick pre-approval process. Our fast decision-making gives you the power to act quickly and make an offer on your dream home. Second, local servicing. We service your mortgage in-house. You won't get a long-distance runaround, but a committed professional whose only job is to help you. Third, experienced team. We are dedicated to simplifying the process and educating you through the home buying process. Come by Invista It's okay to dream. In fact, it's encouraged. We are your home buying partner. Give us a call at 785-228-0149.
Thanks for joining us again. This is Karey Brown, broker owner, Realty Executives Preferred Advisors, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. I'm back with Doug Millebrent, and he is a home inspector for Pillar to Post. Again, we've used him quite a bit. Doug, let's talk about what goes into a home inspection.
Well, when I get a call for a home inspection, the first thing I do when I arrive on the site, after I've gotten all the information that I've gotten from the realtors and the buyers and the sellers, and then I head over to the house. And when I drive up to the house, I'm already inspecting. I'm looking at the side of that house. How does that house look when it's sitting on the ground? Are there walls that look like they're kind of angled out? Is there some issues with the house being plumb? Does the slope on the property slope away from the house? Are there any low spots where water can puddle and pond? And then when we get out the ladders and all the equipment that I need to do my inspections, I like to start on the roof. I start from the top down, from the outside to the inside, and then once I get inside the house, I start from the inside and work my way down to the basement. And usually the pattern that I get by doing it that way is anything that's leaking on plumbing usually shows up by the time I get down to the basement. If there's any leaks or anything like that, I need access to attics, crawl spaces. If your house has a crawl space, there are some minimums that we require to be able to get in there. If it's big enough and I can get in there, I'm going. And same thing with the attic. One of the things about attics that we didn't mention is making sure that your attic has two things: insulation and ventilation. People tend to try to seal up their house to make it warmer, and they close off those vents in the attic, and that's a no-no. Make sure that the soffit vents are clear. If you add insulation to your attic, make sure that you keep them clear and that the roof vents are clear, because you definitely need to keep that thing ventilated. It keeps the roof cold so that in the winter the snow and the doesn't melt and turn into ice. That's the main reason. And it also keeps your house from building up moisture in the home and creating mold and things like that. So, but yeah, the home inspection that I do, I give a nice 3-ring binder to all my clients that they can keep all the home inspection stuff that I did in there. And there's also a home system, envelopes to track things like taxes and heating and cooling. And also the other thing that I do is I print that report right on site, so that the buyer has everything they need right there. And then within 24 hours, I email a copy out to everybody. So it's kind of finalized that day. It takes me a little bit longer to do a home inspection. I have to do the printing and do everything right on site. I don't do it at home and then mail it to you. But you end up with it in your hand when I leave, and you're ready to go to closing.
Absolutely. And, I mean, if you've listened to the show at all over the years, you definitely know, again, we didn't and have regretted it ever since. Usually the things that we find the hard way. Again, water shooting into our kitchen ceiling. That was a blast. Termites, we didn't have a termite inspection done. It's just crazy because they mostly require it. Ours, I don't even remember why we didn't have to do one. But whenever we started renovating our house, guess who had termites? So, lots of things happen that make you go back and say, hindsight's 20/20. With my clients, we always make sure to tell them, listen, I don't care if you're an inspector or if you're a rehabber. It's always best to know what you're getting into. So, if they're going in and rehabbing it, they've done it several times and they know exactly what they're getting into and what they're doing, that's one thing. But if you're a first-time home buyer, budget to have a home inspection done. It's too important not to.
The actual cost of a home inspection is so minuscule compared to the cost of what you're buying. You're buying a home, and if you're paying $100,000 for that house, it's certainly worth $300 and $400 to go have a home inspection taken on that home. Most people won't hesitate a minute to spend $50 to $100 to have a used car checked. That's only going to cost them $2,500, but they'll spend that money to go check a car. So in percentage-wise, a home inspection is a great investment for you. We all try to be very thorough as home inspectors to find all of those things, and nothing in our mind is too little because it can become a big thing if it isn't taken care of. And it's also very important to know who your home inspectors are. Pillar to Post, all of Pillar to Post home inspectors around the country and in Canada are all required to carry a E&O policy up to $1 million. And so make sure that your person that's going to be doing the home inspecting for you is insured and also either insured or bonded. Thank you.
Absolutely. Again, we use the people that we know. We have seen their work. We watched them. If you've sold as many houses as we have, which is well over 1,000 at this point, you're pretty sure what they're looking for. As realtors, we cannot pretend to be an inspector. We cannot say anything about anything. Even the best thing we can say is, listen, looking at the foundation, if you can tell that the cracks are going in a direction that they shouldn't be going, we can say, listen, I think that this concerns me, and I feel like you need to have an inspection done. I can't tell you that I've had an inspector tell me before that this is an issue. What I can tell you is that it concerns me, and you should have an inspection done.
Some of the lenders today are requiring inspections, and they also will come out and do one for themselves in many cases. So it's very important to get those inspections. One of the hot topics lately are GFCI outlets in the kitchen, in the bath, and wet areas, so that they're protected.
Absolutely. I know with VA and FHA, definitely they stress that significantly because you don't want to get shocked first off.
Exactly.
Or electrocuted by accidentally dropping something in the sink. So definitely, I know. There's a lot of confusion when it comes to lenders coming out and looking at houses, though. They're not inspectors either, so correct. I don't want anybody to rely on that. Have a professional home inspector do it. There's confusion about what an appraiser does versus what an inspector does. People get confused and they think that an appraiser's there to inspect it. They inspect to make sure that it's going to fulfill the requirements of the lender. So they're going to look for the GFCI outlets. They're going to look for... Now they have to test appliances. So if an appliance is there, it has to work. Now, say, for instance, you're a seller and your dishwasher doesn't work. You don't have the money to replace it. It cannot be there. So whatever is there must work.
Yeah, all of our inspections require that we check on-off only. We don't test temperatures in ovens, but we check an on-off for all the appliances in the kitchen, garbage disposer, things like that. It's very important. Nowadays, a good electric range will run you pretty close to $1,500. So it's not something that a lot of new home buyers can spill out of their wallet right after buying a home.
Right. And we definitely, for a seller, for buyers to understand, no home is perfect. It just isn't. It's like a car. You could get a brand new car and a manufacturer could have made a mistake. A home is used every day. So you're there every day. You're using all the appliances. You're using the plumbing and the heat and the AC and all of that. So it does wear. Nothing's going to last forever. But at the time of inspection, as long as it works, that's what they're going to say is it works. That doesn't mean 12 years from now it's still going to work. So you have to budget for these things. But in a seller's defense, they don't often know if something does or doesn't work because, say, for instance, everybody knows I don't necessarily like to cook. My husband likes to grill. I just put an oven in. We went 2 years without an oven because we didn't use one, except for tater tots. So now, with me cooking, I like to use an oven because I generally can't screw that up. So, if we had left our old one in and we hardly ever used it, how would we have known? Wear and tear happens. People use furnaces all the time that have cracked heat exchangers, and they don't know. They're not inspectors. They are not qualified to check that, nor would they have any indication. It is usually found in a home inspection.
That's right. And typically on things like HVAC with heat exchangers, even home inspectors, without doing a water test on that heat exchanger, we're not positive either. But there are certain things that we can notice, that we've been trained to notice on HVAC equipment, to make sure that it has a proper burning flame, and anything else that we may notice when we're doing our inspection that tends to push us in the direction of saying, hey, we need to get an HVAC guy out here to take a better look at this furnace. We're not happy with what we're seeing. And that's why it's very important to get a trained home inspector. All pillar-to-post home inspectors are trained by Pillar to Post. It is a franchise company. That's why I bought it. And when you talk about things going out and budgeting for them, one of the things that I give to every one of my clients is a cost guide that tells them about what things cost for about everything in a home, and then also a longevity guide. It tells them how long does that air conditioner last, how long does that oven last, so that they can budget to replace those things. Because eventually, everything you have in your home is going to need to be replaced at some point. It's going to have to be painted. It's going to have to be taken care of.
That even includes your outlets. I know our house was built just about the same year my husband and I were born, which I'm just going to go ahead and say is kind of old. We're in our mid-40s, and so is our house. And outlets, they start getting really loose. I can even change those. So those are things that a homeowner can handle for themselves. Even Google will walk you through exactly what to do. The most important thing is to turn the electricity off, flip the breakers.
Correct.
That's rule number one. But they're super easy. Usually, as long as they were done right when they were put in, you can see exactly how the little electrical term here, gizmos hook into the back of the outlet itself, and you just put it back in the same way it was. Now, if they were reversed, watch Google to make sure that you're putting it back in right.
That's right. That's another thing that we find are what we call reverse polarity connections, and a lot of times the homeowner will make that mistake. Usually the outlets have a brass screw and a silver screw. The brass screw is for the black wire. The silver screw is for the white wire. And if you get it that hooked up that way, most often you'll be okay. But for if you're not sure, for $5 at Harbor Freight, you can pick up a little electric tester and check those outlets yourself and make sure that they're operating properly. And loose outlets are just inviting a person to have a problem, a bigger problem. Loose outlets can cause fires. They can arc against the metal box that they're in. All sorts of things can happen, and it doesn't take 5 minutes of your time to tighten up that outlet and make sure it's tight in the wall.
Absolutely. So, Doug, how do they get a hold of you if they want to have a home inspection? And by the way, you can have a home inspection at any time. You don't have to have your home on the market. So, again, how do they get a hold of you? That's
right. In fact, I perform pre-listing inspections all the time where people want to find out, what do I need to do to my house so I can make it ready for sale? So that's another great way to get a home inspection. But, yes, I'll do home inspections even if you just want to make sure your house is up to snuff. You can get a hold of me by calling 234-0333, and that's an area code 785. And if I'm not at home, I'll be on my mobile, and the message will get relayed to me. And a lot of times, I'll call right back as soon as I can. I try to make it as easy as possible for people to reach me. Scheduling is usually not a problem. Anytime within 2 weeks, we can usually get you in. If you want to check out my website, all you have to do is go to pillartopost.com, and there's a little box in there that you can put your zip code in, and that will bring you to my page. And I'm pretty sure you'll catch me because I'm the only Pillar to Post franchise in Kansas.
Well, that eliminates the competition, doesn't it? If you're looking to buy or sell a house, be sure and give us a call. Our number is 785-213-5188. You can check us out online on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, all that good stuff by looking up Realty Executives Preferred Advisors Team. And if you want to check out our website, it's nekansashomes.com. You can search any home inside of Northeast Kansas on 4 different MLSs. The most accurate place to find that information. Even Zillow doesn't have as accurate of information because several of those MLSs do not syndicate to Zillow. So be sure and check that out. Thanks for joining us at Real Estate 101.
Thank you for listening to Real Estate 101 with the Karey Brown team from Realty Executives Preferred Advisors. Tune in again next Sunday at 11 o'clock for Real Estate 101.